Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Talk Talent Live. I'm your host, Michael Goldberg, and it is great to be on the show today. There's no better time to kick off a Talk Talent Live session with my partner here, Mr. Adam Posner, who hosts the podcast. He's on Clubhouse, he's on LinkedIn, all over the place.
I'm on 1 hour of sleep.
He's on 1 hour. What's going on with that?
Long story, man. We're good.
Okay.
I got my iced coffee here. I listen. I come to deliver. It's showtime. Michael Goldberg needs me on the live show. I'm gonna have my iced coffee. I'm good to go.
There you go. So it was about a year ago. We're a little past it, but we're about a year. And my first guest on the show with on a different third party platform with all kinds of interesting difficulties. But I said, it wouldn't be an anniversary without having the first guest I've ever had. And I'm going to continue to do it each anniversary. I'm going to have you on because you inspire people. You know how to connect with people.
Thanks, man.
Tell us what's going on in your world right now, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I apologize that I'm not in my normal pause set here. I am in the upstairs pause studio bedroom office. We had a furniture delivery today. Long story short, I'm here. It doesn't matter. We're good. Things are going well on the recruiting end. You and I were talking a little bit about off air. We're starting to see things pick up. Now let's take a step back. We see the job reports. We see that, there's been a lot of people out of work over the last year or so, and we're definitely sympathetic to that. But if you want to look at it and break it down through the numbers, the majority of those folks are in hospitality, restaurants, travel, tourism, sports. We have to think about what concert venues, all that type of stuff. We have to think about the industry and where it's being affected. But there's other industries, it's those silver linings, those other industries that are doing well right now. Like, for example, a lot of my clients are in the hyper growth e-commerce direct to consumer space. So people are home, they don't want to go out, and they're buying everything online. And we're seeing a lot of continued hiring there where the dynamic is still very candidate driven. It's still a candidate market, highly competitive. A lot of folks in that industry are not out of work. So business as usual.
That's awesome. And I think that's important for everybody to hear because I'm starting to see a pickup in technology organizations focused in on the hyper growth as well, but technology, but also in the supply chain distribution world. So, you're right. The industries that weren't affected, it hadn't been business as usual, but it's getting back up there. I am seeing a lot of competitiveness, and I don't know if you're hearing this from your candidates or not. But I am that it seems like there's quite a few people that believe that those that are not working are still being passed over for those who are working. So in other words, the passive candidates that you and I like to go after, active or passive, they really want to talk to people who are working. Are you seeing any shift in that? Or no?
It's a tough one. I mean, that goes back even pre-pandemic. And it's a conversation. Well, let's kind of take a few steps back here. If you're working in contingency recruiting, where a client is paying you a fee for candidates that are placed, they don't want to have to pay you for somebody that's out of work. So that's really important to just think about there. Now, generally speaking, there kind of is this misinformation. The optics are kind of strange on it, where for some reason, a lot of employees really think that, because someone's out of work, something must be wrong with them. They must have not been a high quality performer, which is not always the case. Let's be truthful here. There are a lot of people who are not good performers, and there's a reason they're out of work. So it's a conversation that you need to have with your client, with your employer, and really understand their thoughts on folks that are out of work. If you're a recruiter and you're actively recruiting, what's your company's position? And I get it, and generally speaking, when I was on the contingency side, clients want us to find exact targets, laser focused. We want people who are happy in their jobs. It kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it's true.
No, it is true. I mean, and I feel for those employees, and even when I was doing some of the job search consulting, there's still like one or two people that still haven't found it. There are folks that are now getting closer than they ever were before, which is great. But you begin to worry for them, because they're clients of mine. I'm trying to help them get a job, and so you got to wonder, what's going on. So let's in that same kind of gear, let's kind of switch. What are you seeing on the candidate experience side? Do you feel like things are starting to improve a little bit, or is it still kind of muddy out there?
I mean, listen, if you're using LinkedIn as your barometer, you're going to continue to hear poor negative candidate experience. And you have to be mindful of where you hear that from, right? If you're hearing it as a one-off from a specific candidate about their experience, it's important to take note of that. But then you can also hear it of a lot of these talking heads that are on LinkedIn. I think it's important to look at the source of that. Is someone saying poor candidate experience who is not in a candidate experience? Come on, right? Like, you have to be mindful of where that source is coming from. I can only speak to how I deliver on a candidate experience. Is something that I take a tremendous amount of pride in. And I think really what separates, and one of those core tenets when I go out there and I pitch my company services, NHP Talent Group, when my clients, why they want to work with me and my team is because we provide that high level white glove treatment. And that comes down to how I was when I was on the candidate side, how much I truly valued, a quality experience. And that's something I take a lot of pride in. So after I place a candidate and they write back, "Hey, Adam, that was fantastic. I love working with you." That means everything to me. I mean, it really, truly does. Take pride in your work.
Absolutely. There's our boy, Kevin Logan Jr. out west saying hello.
Yeah, we had a good chat last week. He tried to trick me, and I picked up the phone. He's like, "Hey, Chad here," and I hung up on him right away. I was like, I thought I had the wrong number, and he thought he was being funny there, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. I mean, I give you some credit for trying to be funny on your first, engagement with me, man. Like, that was kind of cool. I'll give you some points for that. But yeah, he got me. Good one, buddy.
He's good people. In fact, we're going to do some co-moderating, and we'll get to this topic in a minute on Clubhouse. So he and I are going to kick something off starting tomorrow night. So we're excited. And you got a big one tonight. Well, let's just kind of jump in it since we're there. So Clubhouse has let me to meet good people like Kevin.
That's a good dude.
I've got a whole list of names in my head, but I can't. Of course, I'm old, so it takes a while.
Come on,
right. What Clubhouse is the jam right now.
Yeah, it's where all the cool people are, right? It's that cool cool corner in the high school parking lot where all the cool kids are smoking in the corner with their leather jackets on.
That's
really,
right.
I mean, talk about exclusive, right? I like that approach from a marketing standpoint. I think it keeps it from flooding the system. And I like the element of exclusivity because it adds that FOMO element where people want to be part of it and they want to be referred in there too. And I think there's also a little bit of quality control in there too. So I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. It keeps it tight and small. So it's interesting because when I look at Clubhouse, I'm putting on my social media hat. Before I got into recruiting, I spent 15 years working in digital and social. So I'm looking at it from an academic standpoint. I think it's fantastic from a human connections. It's stripping it down to just conversations. It's people talking to people. You don't have to be TV, camera, radio. Most of the time when I'm listening to it, my prime time that I'm actively on is 8:30 to 9:30 at night because that's the time I can during the day. That's when in between my two kids are going to bed, I have a little bit of a break there. Because during the day when I'm working, I could listen passively in the background. But I'll be honest, if I'm recruiting and I'm in my element, I can't really concentrate on listening to a conversation and be fully engaged and doing my day job. So I really try not to do that. So let's talk about what's going on the platform right now. As with any social media platform, there's always going to be that first mover advantage. It's going to be a land grab, right? Mike, you're going to have people coming in, they're trying to claim territory. You have your hackers. You have these rooms on there where people are literally just following for follow to try to build up these followings. I see the moderator hacks and all that kind of stuff. I'm not into that. I'm not into the rooms where they're trying to talk about Forex and Bitcoin and people trying to selling their services and teaching you how to optimize every platform for hacking. That's not it. So with every platform, you got to find where the gold is, and it may take a little bit of work. And I think that the gem about Clubhouse are the smaller rooms. The smaller rooms where you could curate themselves, you could have more intimate conversations. You don't have to wait and have all these ego moderators and stand there for 5 hours and waiting for, somebody to pull you up on stage. Like, I'm not into that, Mike. Like, that's just not me. But one of the cool things I found was if I start a room, I could bring in a few different people in my network who I'm close with. They may not know each other. And I'm able to facilitate real-time those interactions and those connections. And to me, that's where the gold is. Now, on the flip side, I've been in some bigger rooms too where I've been moderating. And I've had the opportunity. Grant Cardone came on and had a good chat with Grant Cardone. I'm actually interviewing him on my show, The Podcast, on Wednesday which should be pretty cool. So you get access to a lot of big names. I was listening to Gary Vee this morning. Like, there's a couple of cool things about it, and I think it's just what you make of it, how you spend your time on it, and just being efficient.
I couldn't agree more. I too like to jump on in the evenings. One of my every time I see this her name's Dana Fellows. She lives up in Maine, but she grew up in Brooklyn. So and last night we talked about, there were like 6 of us, and we just talked about New York City and what a cool place and the cool vibe that it is. And New York's New York. Yeah. On other ones we've talked about LinkedIn tangents, where we go off on all these different topics related to LinkedIn. And I agree. I think it's a chance to bring people together so that we make introductions to one another, and then take it to LinkedIn.
Yeah, take it offline.
Yeah, you take it offline. And then when you want to get back online, you too. I mean, at first I was like, all right, I got to set boundaries on this thing, because it can be a time suck.
People are on it for hours. I mean, look at our buddies, Joel and Liam. I mean, I logged in this morning to forward an invite to somebody, and I was on, I think it was 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and both those dudes were like hot and heavy. I'm like, how are you still married? Like, how does this relationship thing even work? And then Joel's like, well, my wife understands it's for my business. I'm like, okay, I tried that line before too.
Yeah, no, I think the daytime is for clients, business development, all that stuff. And anyone get on Clubhouse, I'm not trying to sell myself, and that's not the point of Clubhouse. I think some people are. I see like, hey, how to go from what's the big one I see? It always has like 1,000 people in it. Like how I went from making
up to $1 million a year on YouTube. Yeah, it's a peacocking, it's a flea market, some of those rooms too, but you have a choice. You don't have to be in them.
Right. And that's the beauty of this thing, is there's so many different topics going on that you pick the ones that are related. So I'm doing one tonight, just solo, on helping job seekers try to figure out how to use the platform if they have access to it. So the Clubhouse platform as a job networking and job searching tool. And you saw my post yesterday and kind of where I think this could go into the virtual thing, town hall thing. One person, I forgot who it was, she made a great comment. She goes, yeah, it just depends on the moderator. So what's your take on moderating? Like, what are some of your key?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really great moderators out there, because I think it's important in if you have a smaller room, it's okay for it to be kind of open format. But as it gets bigger, you need to have some rule and order around that room. Otherwise, it just becomes, a complete cluster F. Everyone's kind of talking over each other. But I've also seen the moderators, some of them be, a little bit heavy-handed, a little bit, strict. The ego's starting to get to them too. But a good moderator controls the room. They set the tone. They make sure everyone's having equal time there. They don't let people ramble on too much. I mean, I've seen some rooms with like a big guest. It'll be like Damon John or Grant Cardone, and they'll bring someone up to tell a question, and literally the person will ask like a 5-part question. And a good moderator will cut them off and be like, hey, I'm sorry, Michael, please just one question to allow time for everybody else. And then if a moderator doesn't have control of the room, they'll just let it go. So you have to be okay with stepping up and talking up as a moderator. I mean, it should be interesting tonight. Hala and I are doing a room. I'll get my plug in here at 8:30 p Eastern time tonight on how to be a good podcast host. And it's being sponsored by a big club on there called Club Pod, for club podcasting, not engagement pods. Club Pod. I can't get behind that name, man. But it's cool. We're fine with that. But we're expecting a good turnout tonight. And I think Hala and I are going to have to do a little bit of tag teaming when it comes to moderating that room and keeping the questions moving and flowing. And you also have to think about, like, as a moderator, the listener experience. Same thing with a podcast host. As a listener, do I want to hear the same person ask 7 questions in a row? Or do I want to see it go around? And like, if you have a big room and lots of people, getting to everybody as much as possible, because it's about the engagement. No one wants to sit in the line like you're waiting to get into freaking the drive-in. Like, no one's interested.
I felt like that yesterday. I was on one with someone, I'm not going to mention the name, but who I talk to at least 2 or 3 times a month. Good guy. And I kind of felt like I was at Southwest Airlines standing at, ticket.
Catacol.
A60, right? It's like,
yeah, we're now boarding zone 8Z.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right. So, those, I totally get that. And I think it's okay. A good moderator will move people from the stage back down to the audience, and I think people are afraid to do that.
You got to move people out when they're done talking. You move them down. It's just a formality. Because here's the other thing too. There's a hack going on right now where people just keep getting more mods to the room for follow. So that's another little hack there. So if I go into a room and I see like 50 people moderating, I'm out. I'm not even going to spend a minute in there.
So what's the cool size like for the cool kids? What are not cool?
I think it
20.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it has to be like anywhere from that like 15 to 30, 40, 50 range, right? It also depends how many mods. I don't like to see more than like 4 or 5 mods in there. I like to see people. I'm not gonna say I always like to see people I know, because there's a little bit of that voyeurism, that exploration there too. You know, I've poked around into some rooms that are completely off topic, things that are not safe for work. I think that's fun too, to kind of explore and be a little bit voyeuristic and, you know, just listen in on a room. That's cool too. Check it out.
So your friend Kevin has a question.
Sure.
Do you more enjoy speaking with people of Grant Cardone's ilk, or the folks that are just starting to build their profile?
Yeah, the answer is both. I will not turn an opportunity to talk to a bigwig like Grant Cardone. Absolutely not. I mean, I'd be lying. I mean, it's great for my brand, great for my audience building. And for the record, I am pretty neutral on Grant Cardone. I do not have a set opinion on him. I hear things negative, I hear things positive, so I'm going in to form my own opinion. The interesting thing about Grant Cardone, he was never a guest I was targeting. I was never going after him. I didn't care if he was a guest on my show. Doesn't really fit the mold. Actually, it does, because he is a true entrepreneur. So when the opportunity came, I had to jump on it. I'd be foolish to not have the opportunity to ask Grant Cardone personally to be on my show. I'd be an idiot not to, and I did, and he's going to be on it. But I love talking to whether it be junior candidates or anyone starting off in podcasting or any other type of online marketing to give advice and insights. So yeah, it works both ways, man.
Absolutely. So
I don't discriminate.
No. The one thing I will say is I hope it's not bought out. I hope they can stay independent for a while, because it's just like, you know, if someone, I mean, look, I could see LinkedIn totally buying them, but you know, if Instagram or Facebook or somebody buys them outside of that, I think it loses its luster.
Yeah. Well, right now we're in the beta phase. We're still in that infancy, and I think it's a big, you know, VC Silicon Valley play. The way they're doing is to hype it up. They're already talking about how they're going to monetize it with, you know, paid rooms, private rooms, kind of like the Patreon model. I see that working for them too. Mm-hmm. I hear rumors of them putting in a direct messenger, which adds a whole other way of monetizing. And I really hope they do not put in a DM. Because I think the beauty of Clubhouse right now, it's just audio. You could link to someone's Instagram, you could link to anything else, but the conversations stay right there. Because once you open it up to DMs, man, you know what's going to happen. You're going to find yourself in a room. There's going to be a couple hundred people there, and you're just going to get flooded with the pitches and the connects and all that other BS that we don't like about it.
Right.
You know, you don't always have to emulate every other platform. You don't. And I'd love to see LinkedIn take this over, because you could really make it an extension, and you could create your rooms and your networking groups as audio only. It's a fantastic extension for LinkedIn, but Twitter's already doing it. They're beta testing their Twitter voices right now. I saw that over the weekend. Mm-hmm. Nothing's new anywhere, Michael. There's nothing new when it comes to social media. There's no new ideas. And this is not a new idea. I mean, if you go back, I don't know if you remember, in the 80s and 90s, they had the party line, the conference call lines, where people would call in and you'd be chatting with random people. This is the same thing.
Yeah, but I do remember those.
Technically.
Yeah, technically it is. You know, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, no doubt. So, podcast, you have been just nailing it with amazing guests. And I think, if someone wants to go into podcasting, you know, what are some of your recommendations to build up that kind of clout, I would call it, to where you are reaching out to people out there that really are considered big names in business? And so if someone's interested in doing that, I mean, welcome. Can you get any tips? Yeah,
absolutely. I think the first thing is, because everyone hears from everybody, you got to do a podcast. You got to do a podcast. You know, everyone's got to do a podcast. That's not the right answer, because I don't think everybody's meant to do a podcast. Same way as not everyone should have a television show. Not everyone should write a book, right? This isn't for everybody. And if you don't feel the passion and feel that itch and feel that real need to it, like if someone says to you, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, someone's like, you must have a podcast if you're an entrepreneur. That's not always exactly true, because not everybody should be doing everything, right? You have to feel it and you have to want to do it. Not just say, assuming you want to do it, you figure out the system, you figure out the process, all the back end, all the front end, everything. It starts with building two things. One, you have to understand your why. Why am I doing this? And what is this show going to be about? Who is my avatar? Who's my listener? What do those people look like? What's their background? And what is my, avatar of my ideal guests look like? Who are the type of guests I'm going to profile? You have to align those two, and then you can start to build that community. And it starts with building a community of your listeners. And I always tell folks going out for one of the mistakes that I made, I went out and I had one show and I'm like, shit, I got to hurry up and get the next couple of shows out there. Get at least 10 shows under your belt, recorded and ready to go. That way you have a library. You have two things that are going to happen. Once you get the first show out there, you don't have to scramble. You have the next ones out there too. And you can even release a couple of shows right away, because if people like it, you want them to have the next ones and get that feel for it and really get the sense of what the show is about and hook them in. And then you can start to parse them out, whether you do 1 a week, 2 a week, wherever it is. But at least you have a bunch of them in the can. That'll start to help build community. That's something I did not do in the beginning. I just put my show right out there and I had to scramble. But looking back on it, if I really built that community and built that buzz beforehand, I think I wouldn't have had to play catch up. It took me to that first 100 episodes about a year and a half to really build up some momentum. And it wasn't until, I would say about 3 months ago where the show really started to take off. And I started to see that J curve when it came to the listeners and the engagement.
Yeah, it's and I've been debating about whether to start a podcast, and now here comes again. Not to go back to Clubhouse, but I'm going to go back to it. Essentially, this becomes my own podcast on a particular topic, and it's not just talking about one-on-one. But I don't know if it was you or somebody else said it, that with Clubhouse you lose that intimacy of that one-on-one conversation with that thought leader or whomever you have on, right?
Yeah, I agree.
You do agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't substitute Clubhouse for my podcast any day of the week. I might consider substituting Clubhouse for a LinkedIn Live. The only problem is you can't record it. But there is technically a way, and I haven't figured it out yet, where you can record it and you can multi-stream, but you have to get permission. Clubhouse may not like it. It's very kind of tricky there, but you're not able to record it. I like my LinkedIn Lives because even if the amount of viewers right now might be low for a show, I'm going to record it and I'll put it out as a podcast and get a couple thousand downloads on it. So it's about recording the content now for the present. And it works great for me too. Like, for example, I have Lori Ruderman on next week. She has a book coming out, so we're going to do the live show, but I'm not going to get her podcast out for like 7 weeks because of my backlog, right? So I'll be able to get a show out now. It'll live forever on LinkedIn. It'll live forever on YouTube. And we'll be able to get that residual listening and downloads, in a month or so when we get it out.
Nice.
It's a win-win. You can't do that at Clubhouse.
No, you cannot. I'll get there. It's
a lot of work, man. I'm telling you. If I told you what it took me to build the process, the marketing, the creative, each individual show. I mean, I spent this weekend editing, not technically editing, but getting all the shows. I have 5 shows ready to go that I want to pump out quickly, lining them up, and my start times, my end times, my commercial breaks, like doing all that stuff too. Only I could do that right now. It's time consuming, man.
It is. Again, Kevin, how about maybe you do a live show, then you follow right up with a Q&A session with fans on. That's a great idea too.
Yeah, so I did that 2 weeks ago with David Breer. That was exactly the idea, Kevin, where we basically had the podcast after show. His episode came out on Monday, and then we did a show together Monday afternoon, and we did like a follow-up where we kind of engaged with each other, some Q&A, and that's exactly what happened. That's when Grant Cardone came into the room, and we hooked that up. It was 2 weeks ago today.
Nice. That's a great idea.
Yeah, good idea. Too bad I'm doing it.
Right. Well, it's good you're doing it, right? So
Kevin's a smart guy. I knew I liked him.
Yeah, right. So even though it goes by the name of Chad. Okay, so how does one get an invite to Clubhouse? So you have to be on the iOS system. So if you own an iPad, you own a Mac, you own a...
you can get on Facebook too, no? I think there's a way to...
Is there? I don't think so.
Someone said something there. Yeah, you got to get an invite. You got to be cool. You got to have an iPhone, and you got to know people. They make it super cool, man.
Yeah, it is cool. How long do you think before they go to Android at all?
I think it's in the works right now. I think that they needed to just MVP it out. They needed to beta test it and get it on one platform.
I know, but yikes. Can you imagine? I mean, now you're talking, what, a potential of 1 billion people on
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
And yeah. I mean, they also need to monitor. I don't know what their back end bandwidth is from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of the world that is not on iPhone. I don't know what the stats are, but I think a lot of the world is. I don't even know the breakdown. I think most of the. I mean, please someone fact check me on this. What the breakdown is? If anybody wants to put it in the comments there globally, Droid versus iOS.
Kevin, go do your homework.
Kevin, get on it. Yep.
Report back to us. Or it could be the user, or it could be, but you have to be invited. I'm out of invites because I sent out, you get invites based on your participation, right? So whether you're moderating, you're inviting people to the room, you're engaging on the platform, then they give out invites. And I had invites and I sent them out. Well, son of a gun, when I sent them out and I couldn't find them on the platform, they don't use. So I've got 6 invites sitting in pending, and nobody's going.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. They're
not accepting them, and then you're just sitting there with them.
Right. It's annoying.
Yeah, I got a couple of those too because people are getting multiple invites. They should actually send it back to you if they accept under somebody else. You should get like a credit for it or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now that we've got things going, hopefully the pandemic starts to. It's not going to slow down, but hopefully it doesn't affect the economy the way it's affecting it. What's kind of the outlook for the rest of this year? Do you think we're really going to see this big spike everyone's talking about starting in the summer?
Spike of what? COVID?
No, spike of new jobs,
Yeah, no. I hope this vaccine, is. I mean, I'm very I mean, if you want to talk vaccine for a second, I'm very optimistic about it. I have faith that politics aside, that people are going to get it. They're going to take it seriously, and it's going to bring the numbers down. And ergo, hopefully, that's going to affect the economy, where things could start to open back up, where we could start to open up industries. We could start to open up entertainment, sports, travel, hospitality, which are huge sectors that have been decimated right now. So if we're able to get travel going by the summer, I mean, just imagine that. Just imagine we get to at least half capacity where we were, summer of 2019. That volume there. I mean, all the industries that are supported with tours. I mean, look at New York City for a minute. Everything's closed in New York City. I have not stepped foot. I live in Long Island. I have not stepped foot on the island of Manhattan since March 13th. I have not stepped foot there. There's nothing for me to do there. All my clients are remote. There's no restaurants. There's no bars. There's no nightlife. There's no theater. There's no shows. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's no point. It's scary, man.
It is scary. It's interesting. I was watching the hockey team here, the Stars. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but they have advertising on the glass. They have advertising on the boards. Now they got advertising on those seat covers. And I asked my son, I go, what's going on? He goes, they're going bankrupt, or they're close to bankruptcy. So they're trying to figure out ways to make money.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Are you an Islanders fan or what are you?
I am an Islanders fan. Yeah, I am an Islanders fan. And it's interesting too. So they there's been this battle in New York and Long Island about where the Islanders play. The Coliseum's a home, but then they were going to play at Belmont. They were playing in Brooklyn for a little bit. And I think now they're going back and forth between Brooklyn and the Coliseum. But they're building a new arena in Queens, Belmont, and we drove by it the other day, and it's beautiful, like a beautiful new arena and everything. I'm like, man, I mean, imagine the people that are investing into that, how much they're betting on this thing to be over. I'm telling you, the National Hockey League will be fine. They're not going to go bankrupt.
No,
we're going to get through it. This season's going to be a wash from a fan perspective. I have a feeling, if you look at football, right? I mean, there was the KC game yesterday. Looked like there was at least 15,000 people in there, and that's a big stadium, Arrowhead, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it looked good. I like seeing people in there. And they're not equating any spread to any of these arenas. I mean, they're outside. I mean, I don't know what's happening inside the concourses, but, if people take this seriously, we'll be able to. I miss baseball, man. I want to get back to a game this summer. I want to be able, at some point this summer, I don't care if I have to wear a mask. I do not care. I want to watch my Mets play, man. I want to sit there and watch a baseball game, and I'll sip beer through a straw, through my mask. I don't care. Whatever I got to do.
There you go. Well, so believe it or not, we gave Kevin a task. Ready?
He did it. He's training.
It's actually, he goes, it's 72%. He corrected himself, but
20, a huge number.
Yeah, look at and he puts the source.
Source it, man. Look
Damn, son, he's good. Must
have
picked that up from his Amazon days,
Yeah, I heard about that place.
Yeah. So have I. As we kind of wrap up here, because I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a lot going on. Look at this. Go Mets.
He's being a brown noser now. He
is. What does he want from you?
I don't know. Well, we'll keep that offline.
Yeah. Keep that offline. And well, yeah, good job by, was it your GM? Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, it's typical Mets right there, right? Like you get a new owner, everyone's super happy about that, and then all of a sudden, someone's sending, you know what, picks, right?
Right.
They're sending eggplant picks to
Yeah.
reporters. Not a good look.
Yeah. Keep it in the pants, people. So, ooh, should we put this Amazon baby? Scary freaking place to go. Well, if that's not good advertising for
There we go.
Okay. But want to be responsible. Any parting words for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone out there, just be optimistic. I think things are going to make a turn. I think that this vaccine is going to spread, hopefully more than the pandemic. And I think people will hopefully believe in it, believe in the science, take it seriously. And even if you don't believe in it, at least respect other people, right? Respect other people's feelings when it comes to masks, when it comes to social distancing. Stop the spread. We're all in this together and we can beat it. Let's beat this thing. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to life. Let's get back to being where we were a year ago. But at the same time, remember all the good stuff that has come from this. We've brought us a lot closer together, more time with family, and remembering what's important most.
That's a great way to end the show. Amen. Right. Adam, as always, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Likewise.
Talked about a myriad of things, nothing too specific, but I like to keep it that way because I don't think you like having something, spec'd in order. You like shooting the breeze, and that's what I
do like shooting the breeze. I mean, I've been on interviews where we get real granular and niche, and I'm fine with that too. But right now, today for a Monday afternoon, this is perfect, Mr. Goldberg.
Keep it loose. All right, brother. Be well. Thank you so much for joining. And thanks everybody for tuning in to the Talk Talent live show. And we'll be back. I believe I have another one tomorrow. So
happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Thanks for having me on. You check out the podcast.
Check out the podcast for sure. Check out Clubhouse, 8:30 tonight Eastern.
8:30 night Eastern time with Hala Taha. You'll find it. Just follow me, put on the notification, and you'll see us go live at 8:30. Check it out.
Great. We'll definitely.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep. Thank you.